Chapter 23. A Girl from the North Country. Sir Thomas Deveroux is at the home of Lady Yvette Waterton, the watermill, Axholme, which nestles in the very bottom corner of Yorkshire, on the borders of Nottinghamshire and Lincolnshire, in that part of the kingdom known simply as North of the Gap. DN 106 HN. You know those days when the sun is high at about the 6th bell of the morning watch, and it never seems to want to fall in the sky? Well, no, to be honest, I'm not that familiar with them either. The 5th bell of the forenoon is far early enough for me, but somehow, today, I was up and about, dressed in my best doublet with scarlet hose, knee-length boots, and only a stiletto dagger, my mother's actually, for ornamentation. It was tucked carefully into my broad leather waistbelt, and here I was, making my way through the small market town of Axholme. It truly was a glorious day for the May Day celebrations, and I was paying another visit to my sweet Yvette. Now, I don't know if you've ever been to the country, or for that matter, even to a small market town, but if you haven't, here is, as they say in the tourist guides, the lowdown. Axholme is a busy little community nestled in the very bottom corner of Yorkshire, on the borders of Nottinghamshire and Lincolnshire. It has a royal charter for a market, another for an annual fair, and a third to operate as a small inland port. Before the harrying, it was once land that belonged to Roger de Bussley and was still a part of the wapentake. That was when the Saxons and Vikings roamed about the shop. It is north of the Gap. The surrounding area is forest. To the south stretches the great Sherwood Forest, and to the north and west is the Forest of Barnsdale. East, there are a few hills that stretch out towards the coast. Between the forest and the hills are mainly lowland marshes and wetlands, as the rivers Don, Trent, Idle and their tributaries flood regularly, the resulting floods creating a small inland sea. And yet, these very waterways are also the secret of Axholme's prosperity and what makes it an inland port. Small ships and large boats can navigate here from the wild northern seas. They progress along the Great Umber into this small inland port, and from here on to the rivers and canal networks. Their reach can stretch as far south as London, west to the industrial zone and Liverpool, and even west by southwest to the Black Country, and further, as far as the slave port of Bristol. There was something else about the region too. Honestly, though we rarely spoke of the matter, the wounds were still fresh, and it concerned Yvette's family. Now don't get me wrong, for we were both from the highest of families, our families being companions of the Conqueror and all. I am, of course, from the great house of Deveroux, and my grandsire is Lord William, son of Richard, Count of Deveroux, with his nephew, the head of our family, being none other than His Grace, Prince Louis of Deveroux, and a half-brother to the King, Philip of Francia. We can trace our ancestry to the first Vikinger, Rollo, and Richard the Fearless, ours and the Conqueror's great-grandfather, whilst my mother is of the House of Boleyn, a daughter of a Queen Mother and an actual cousin of Her Grace, Bess Tudor, a princess of the blood. Yvette's ancestry is more complicated. She is descended from the houses of Montbray and Montgomery, and her grandsire is Geoffrey de Montbray, Bishop of Coutances, and one of King William's trusted prelates. As the story goes, she can trace her lineage from the Viking king of Ringerike, Helgi the Sharp Fridleifsson on the one hand, and Charlemagne and Swanhild on the other. Unfortunately, Yvette had a problematic derivation on the distaff side of things. You understand that her family also had a rebellious nature, especially the female line, and let's face it, no king likes a rebel. As I see it, the problem is that Axholme, which on the surface really does seem such a nice, quiet, idyllic kind of place, is, in reality, slap bang in the middle of a hotbed of insurgents, rebels, Puritans, freethinkers and heretics. Mainly but not limited to the nearby villages of Scrooby, Misterton and Epworth, in which the Druids thrive and keep their faith alive through their offspring Puritanic heretics, who, between them, all give the crown such a hard time. And I must say, I said, speaking to a small dog that had been walking along with me for a while, even more importantly is the fact that this little town of yours is slap bang on Ermine Street and therefore has an easy journey by road or river and canal back to the metropolis. Woof, woof, answered the dog in agreement. The other thing about Axholme is that the township is often confused with the mythical Isle, and it's easy to understand why. As I said, the rivers Don, Trent, Idle and their tributaries flood regularly. As the ground around Axholme is mainly marshlands with a myriad of small lakes, which are crisscrossed by deep streams and rivulets, the whole area becomes one substantial inland sea. and some believed that amid all this water is a massive hill, the mystic Isle of Axholme. Fables and songs say that the isle floats in the marshes and mists of these border regions, and that it was the ancient home of the Druids. This may explain the host of freethinkers that seem to abound in the area and its environs. Anyway, the townspeople had been about early today, and there was a definite spirit of excitement in the air. I returned the smile that a beautiful young maiden had given me, and I was very taken by the idea that north of the gap, some things still seem more effortless and definitely more friendly. I strode down the high street through the marketplace, and there she was, standing with some people I had not previously met, looking as radiant as a goddess. My Yvette. Several pavilions were scattered about the village green, if a small market town can have a village green, and the local populace was bubbly and frisky as they mingled around the assorted stalls and tents. A small musical troupe played a rather noisy and slightly off-key tune, with considerable vigour taking precedence over skill, if you follow me. The villagers and townfolk cavorted around the beer stalls. I must admit to being quite taken by all the fun and games and the colour of the whole thing, but I was not at all tempted to join in. It all looked a little too much to me, and I found the dunking stool, in particular, most frightful. The very idea of allowing all and sundry, for the price of a farthing, to hurl wooden balls at an iron plate just inches above your head is one thing, but to then consent to be dropped several feet into a tub of cold water, if they become successful in hitting that plate, is quite another, I said to Yvette. Like the lady she is, fortune had thankfully decreed that I would be spared these offences, as Yvette wanted to attend the sale of goods that the local church was hosting. Please press the like icon, it really helps with the algorithm. Click subscribe to be notified of further installments. You can find more information and other videos at mortalcritters.com. The Mortal Critters ebook is available at Amazon, and the paperbacks are available at all good bookstores.